Rain hammered against the colored glass panes of Gearwright Row as Taiven hunched over the cluttered work table. The wind howled outside, one of those night winds that could tear lesser islands from the sky. Taiven's copper goggles were streaked with oil, his hands trembling as he tried again to fix the sputtering ether lamp. A sudden knock rattled the workshop's warped door, and Taiven's heart skipped. He wasn't expecting anyone, not since Master Gent had vanished 2 months back, leaving only his debts and his secrets. Taiven wiped his hands and eased open the door. A girl stood in the drizzle, wild red hair matted to her head. "You're late," she chided, stepping inside without waiting. "The guild rotors are circling again. Did you find it?" Her name was Corin, and though Taiven hated to admit it, her knack for reading ancient runes had already saved his hide thrice. He grunted, gesturing at the great brass chest bolted to the workshop floor. "Almost broke my wrist on the lock," he muttered. "But look." Taiven lifted a battered map, symbols scrawled in Gent's coated hand. The ink shimmered gold in the lamplight. Corin leaned close, breath hitching. "That's the archipelago, the isles that shift. Legend said they drift beyond all guild reach, untouchable." Legend or trap? Taiven's voice was bitter. He'd seen too many die for the guild's broken promises. Why risk our necks for fairy tales? The girl's eyes hardened. "Because if we don't, someone else will. The Crescent Guild has spies everywhere. If they find it first, they'll bind all Morathryn with their chains." Taiven hesitated. "I just fix things." A new voice rumbled from the shadows. "That's why you're perfect, lad." Marad, the skyship pilot, stepped from behind the engine stack, her silver prosthetic arm ticking like clockwork. "Guilds need heroes. Power needs the forgotten. Are you ready to join the crew, or must we find another?" Thunder rolled, shaking the island's foundations. Across the floating city, lanterns blinked out one by one. Taiven looked at the map, at Corin's fierce resolve, at Marad's sly confidence. He squared his shoulders as the sky darkened outside, ready as I'll ever be. With the map clutched tight, they stepped into the storm, unaware that hidden eyes, some human, some not, followed every move. The hunt for the shifting isles had begun, and Morathryn would never be the same. The rain had thinned to a dull mist by the time Taiven, Corin, and Marad reached the dock. Ships bobbed among the clouds, anchored to drifting root bolts that hummed quietly with enchantment. Marad's own vessel awaited, a patchwork sky sloop with hull plates scavenged from half a dozen wrecks. Corin eyed the ship skeptically. "You're sure she'll fly?" Marad smirked, slapping the hull where gears and runes interlocked. "The Sparrow's half magic, half miracle. She'll get us to the Isles if the stars favor us." Taiven lingered on the gangway, one hand on the map, the other clutching a battered satchel stuffed with gadgets. "Where's the rest of the crew?" At his words, shadows shifted below deck. 2 shapes ascended the stairs, one tall, the other cloaked and silent. "This is Sedge," Marad introduced the wiry man, whose eyes flickered with suspicion but also intelligence. "Best glass runner this side of Rift Pass. And Kale. Well, Kale knows things the rest of us shouldn't." The cloaked figure nodded, a single blue-black scale flashing from beneath his sleeve. Eyes watched Taiven from the deep shadows of the hood. Corin pressed closer. "You trust them?" Taiven shrugged, trying not to let his nerves show. "I barely trust myself, but trust isn't why we're here." Above them, city bells began to toll, a warning code. Corin spun, voice urgent. "They know we've got Gent's map. We have to move." Marad shouted, "All aboard, Sedge, wind the coils. Kale, up the ether shroud." The crew rushed into action. Sedge vanished to the stern, and soon exotic runes flared to life along the railings. Kale started to chant, a low, rippling language that made Taiven's skin crawl. The mist thickened, swirling up around the Sparrow until the city was lost to view. Taiven found himself at the helm, Marad by his side. "You ever flown in zero sight before?" she asked, voice low so only he could hear. "If I said yes, I'd be lying," he admitted. The sky sloop lurched, creaking, then steadied. Below, the endless blue dropped away, the city now just another floating memory. Corin squeezed his arm. "The map says our first path leads through the maw. Nothing has ever come back from there. Not whole, anyway." Sedge appeared, grinning nervously. "Good thing we're not whole to begin with." Below the hull, thunder rumbled deeper than any storm. The Sparrow, bearing scars and hope alike, soared out into the uncharted clouds, and Taiven's doubts were lost in the rush of wind. But as the vessel vanished, a flock of glass-eyed crows swooped from the shadows, the Crescent Guild's eyes, and followed unseen through the mist. Fog thickened so tightly around the Sparrow's deck that each lantern glow looked swallowed whole. Above and below, nothing but hungry gray. Taiven clung to the rail, his knuckles white. Even Morathryn had gone quiet at the helm, a rare thing. Cale stood at the bow, chanting low, his hood fluttered by cold wind. Strange shapes flickered in the mist. Fins? Claws? Taiven forced himself to focus on the map, squinting at Gent's cryptic sketches. "See these marks?" he murmured to Corin. Gent always hid riddles in plain sight. But these aren't islands. They're something else. Corin frowned. "Coordinates, maybe?" She tapped the side of her head. "Or warnings." A howl ripped through the gloom. Sedge dropped his spyglass, curses flying. The air twisted and trembled. Then a massive, jawed shadow slashed across the port side with a screech that rattled the rigging. Morathryn snapped into motion. "Battle positions! Sedge, arc crossbow! Cale, shields!" Taiven's mind raced. From the depths, a glowing eye larger than a lantern burned through the mist. A maw beast, flesh like driftwood, jaw as wide as a cottage door. "Fire!" barked Morathryn. A bolt of blue energy sizzled from Sedge's weapon and bit into the beast's hide, but it only made the thing angrier. The jaw clamped down, biting a chunk off the stern deck. Corin flung a fistful of powder, runes etched in her palm. "Ancient's shield!" she cried. For an instant, blue light enveloped the Sparrow as the beast thrashed against it, howling. Taiven's mind whirred, gears clicking. He dashed below deck, scrambling for his satchel. Pulling out a handful of voltage coils, he raced back topside. "Distraction!" he shouted to Morathryn. "Lure it off!" They hurled the electrified coils overboard. The beast, greedily curious, snapped at the sparking bundle, and the voltage surged through its head. A shriek echoed and echoed, then slowly, the shape faded into the rolling clouds. The tension broke. Sedge slumped against the rail. Cale lowered his hood, revealing a flash of scaled skin along his cheek. Morathryn exhaled hard. "First the maw, then who knows what. We'll need more than luck next time." Taiven looked at the burns on his hands, the trembling map, but Corin's steady gaze met his, fearless. "We made it through," she said softly. "Not because of luck, because we're together." Far behind, the glass-eyed crows swooped and swirled, whispering the Sparrow's fate to powers that moved in darkness. The maw was only the beginning. The Isles, and what they promised, were waking. Sunrise caught the battered sky sloop at the edge of the maw, painting silver across wet decks and faces drawn thin by fear. Below them an endless ocean of cloud drifted, giving way at last to glimpses of green. Islets, hovering and twirling in the ether, brimming with flowers that glistened like gemstones. Taiven could scarcely breathe. A faint popping noise jerked him from his wonder. Sedge adjusted the Sparrow's either sails, cursing under his breath as magical energy wrestled with the ever-shifting winds. "We're too exposed. Any guild scout could spot us now." Corin leaned toward Taiven, excitement flickering in her eyes. "The map says there's a landing on the second isle. There. See the spiral mark? That's a passage beneath." Taiven still doubted. "And if a guardian waits for us there?" Morathryn watched the circling crows in the distance. "Guilds teach us to be clever, not brave. We need both. Cale, come with me. Sedge, spin the engines at half thrash. Corin, Taiven, go ashore, find the passage, and pray it's not a tomb." The Sparrow set down on a patch of mossy stone. Everything shimmered as if viewed through water. As the engines quieted, Taiven and Corin crept forward. Every flower, every pebble buzzed with old magic. Corin whispered, "I heard stories back home in the tunnels under Windspire. The Isles choose who may walk on them. If they don't want us here?" She let the thought trail into silence. Taiven pressed onward, nerves tight. They found the spiral, a ring of black stones inset in the grass. He crouched, brushing away dew. "There's a mechanism. I can try." A deep voice vibrated through the soil. "You seek what is lost." Taiven fell back, heart hammering. The spiral glowed, and from it rose a being, half root, half stone, with a face both wise and strange. It studied them with slow patience. Taiven fumbled for words. "We need to cross to the archipelago. We carry no guild banner." "No guild," the guardian rumbled. "That is why you are tested. Prove you stand together, not alone." Corin reached for Taiven's hand without hesitation. He swallowed, hope and fear warring inside him, and clasped her fingers. The guardian smiled, mist curling from its lips. "Remember, one step is many. Alone, you fall. Together, you find the aisles. The passageway cracked open, roots writhing aside. Corrin squeezed his hand tight. Ready? He nodded. Let's find out who we are, and if Morathryn is worth the price. The two descended, the aisle shifting beneath them as distant crows wheeled in warning. Above, Maraud and the others watched closely as more shadows gathered along the horizon. The adventure had only just begun, and already, hearts and loyalties were being tested. Roots shivered around Taiven and Corrin as they moved deeper into the passageway, lantern light flickering against ancient carvings along the walls. Taiven counted the echoes of their footsteps, sharper and quicker than he liked. Somewhere above, thunder rattled, hinting that the sky was again turning foul. Corrin brushed her fingers along the symbols. This isn't just a walkway, it's a story. Taiven peered closer. Etched in the stone were scenes of people, different from any guild, bands of all kinds working together, forging bridges between islands. At their center, a single device, not so different from Taiven's own gadgets, but radiant with magic. The final panel was cracked clean through, pieces of the image missing. It broke, Corrin murmured, tapping the brake. Something shattered that miracle. Taiven felt a sting in his chest. That's why Morathryn splintered. This archipelago held them together. And when it broke, so did everything else. Before Corrin could reply, a sharp cry echoed from above. Taiven flinched. Something's wrong. They hurried back to the spiral gate, emerging just as Maraud and Sedge raced across the grassy knoll, weapons drawn. Kale knelt by the sparrow's hull, murmuring a spell as golden sparks flashed beneath his claws. Sedge yelled, "We've been found! Guild falcons, 3 ships on the approach!" Above, the sky was nowhere near empty. Sleek, black ships with the crescent sigil dipped low, their engines singing with power. Bolts of magical fire lanced through the morning haze, burning holes in the moss and sending Maraud's crew scrambling for cover. Taiven flicked through his satchel, thoughts racing. "Cover the left, if we're separated." Maraud's prosthetic hand locked around his wrist. "No splits. We do this together, or not at all." Corrin didn't hesitate. She planted her feet and began a chant, her voice raw but strong. Light erupted at her fingertips, spilling into a ward that shimmered around them all. "Taiven, work the old device! Now!" With hands shaking, Taiven inserted a voltage coil into the panel of the Guardian's passage. Electricity leapt from rune to rune, and the islet trembled as if waking from a long sleep. 2 of the guild ships banked hard, caught in a storm of wild magic swirling from the isle itself. The third, larger than the rest, forced its way through, landing with a metallic shriek. A tall figure in shimmering armor stepped off, Crescent Guild captain, her eyes burning with command. "Return Gent's map and stand down," she roared. Maraud smiled coldly. "You'll have to take it from us." The battle lines were drawn, tension thick as the storm building overhead. Taiven's heart battered in his chest as he realized there was no turning back. Every choice mattered now. One wrong move, and they'd lose more than just the Isles. They'd lose each other, and the only future worth fighting for. The storm seemed to explode around them as the Crescent Guild captain leveled her jeweled staff. Bolts of blue lightning forked through the air, striking the makeshift ward Corrin held up. The force sent her stumbling back, nearly breaking the shield. Taiven's nerves frayed with every flash. Maraud barked orders. "Sedge, see if you can sabotage their engines. Kale, with me. Flank right. Taiven, don't let go of that map. Corrin, hold." The ground shook as Crescent Guild footmen leapt from their ship, faces masked, weapons glowing. Kale darted into the mist, moving faster than any human, his scaled arm catching and deflecting a whirling crescent blade. Sedge vanished behind the nearest boulder, a trail of smoke the only sign of his presence. Corrin winced as another bolt hit home. Taiven dove to her side, pressing the palm of his hand to hers, lending what little steadiness he possessed. "Don't crack, Corrin." "I'm here." "If you have a plan," she gasped, "now's the moment." Taiven's mind raced. The passage device thrummed at his feet, energy still swirling, alive but unpredictable. He remembered the mural, bands working together, fragments coming together, and the broken piece in the center. He felt at his satchel, desperate. His hands brushed the broken gear he'd kept from Gent's workshop all these lonely months, a perfect fit for the mural's shattered heart. "Cover me," he yelled, diving toward the wall. Lightning scythed overhead. He fitted the gear piece, letting Corrin's shield fold tightly around them both. Something inside the wall snapped into place, old magic surging. The aisle itself seemed to breathe, moss rolling, gravity shifting. The guild captain shouted, "Stop him!" But too late. A pillar of radiant light danced from the spiral up to the very sky, scattering the storm clouds. Crescent ships careened off course, battered by powerful winds conjured by the awakened isle. Maraud and Kale quickly rounded the captain. Kale's voice, cold and resonant, echoed like ancient thunder. "You don't belong here, Guildsworn. This isle chooses." The Crescent captain hesitated, just enough, and Maraud advanced, silver arm shining with humming runes. "Time to run, Captain, if you know what's good for you." The guild, battered and panicked, retreated toward their ship, but the captain locked eyes with Taiven before fleeing, her voice low but deadly. "You have not seen the last of me, inventor." The pillar faded. Quiet returned, tense, uncertain. Sedge staggered out, grinning, a handful of smoldering wires. "Engines are patched with guild pride and sticky alchemy. Won't get far." Corin finally let her shield drop, tears of relief and exhaustion welling in her eyes. Taiven squeezed her hand, this time steady, together. Maraud surveyed the sky. The Isles of Legend beckoned just beyond the horizon, and every heart on the Sparrow knew enemies still hunted in the clouds. But Taiven, battered and hopeful, felt something new sparking inside. A spark strong enough, maybe, to mend a broken world. The battered Sparrow soared higher, leaving the islet and its flashing runes behind. Clouds parted as the wounded crew gathered on deck, battered souls against the wind. Taiven leaned against the rail, still clutching the repaired gear from Ghent's mural. A strange warmth filled his chest, hope maybe, or something dangerously close. Maraud joined him at the bow, gaze fixed on the horizon where an archipelago of shifting islands glimmered. "We've bought ourselves time," she murmured, "but it's never enough. Guilds don't forgive, Taiven. They hunt, and they never forget a ship that defied them." "Then we stay ahead," Taiven answered, voice steadier than he felt. "We choose our own legend." Corin and Sedge returned from below decks. Sedge had a rag pressed to a bleeding cut, but grinned all the same. "Sky's changing. These islands, they move like puzzle pieces. We plotted a course, then the islands drifted apart, and now the map's almost useless." Corin unrolled the map on the hatch, eyes narrowed. "There's a pattern hidden in Ghent's glyphs. He planned for the movement, see? The isles only align when the fragments of their history are made whole." A shadow flitted across the sun, crows always circling. "We need to find another mural, another broken isle," Kale said, stepping from the shadows. His hood was down, scales glinting, and for the first time even Sedge didn't flinch. "You repaired the passage once. Do it again, and the path may open." The Sparrow banked, heading toward an isle that shimmered with blue light. Lightning danced in the air, structures of crystal and wind perched along its banks. As they neared, the Sparrow's hull groaned. Spires erupted from the isle, reaching for the ship. Maraud's expert hands danced across the controls. "Hold tight!" They were forced to land far from the nearest mural, weaving through labyrinths of crystalline arches and singing wind. At the center, Taiven found a shattered archway littered with broken glyphs. Something dark pulsed beneath the stone, anger, regret, memory. "It's like before," he whispered, "pieces missing, history broken." Their breath caught as guild crows settled behind them, followed moments later by a familiar voice. The Crescent captain stepped from the mist, bandaged but determined. "You can't repair what was meant to stay shattered, Taiven. Power brings only ruin." Taiven straightened, voice rising. "Power is just a tool. Alone it breaks us. Used together, the right way, it can heal." Corin pressed the next piece, found within Ghent's battered map, into the arch. Runes flared, the isle trembled, and all were bathed in blinding blue light. Each felt a part of their burden lift just for a moment. But the presence beneath the arch had awakened, and as the ground trembled, cracks raced across the isle. The way forward, or another deadly test. The stakes had never been higher. Failure meant not only death, but the hope of healing. Morathryn lost for generations. The blue light faded, but the pulse of awakened magic lingered. A heartbeat thrumming beneath the shattered isle. Taiven, blinking away tears, realized every member of their ragged crew stood in a circle of glowing glyphs. The captain of the Crescent Guild circled them warily, staff lowered but eyes sharp. Corin bent close, running her hands along the arch's new join. "It's working, Taiven. The story here, it's about forgiveness. about mending what pride turned to ruin. The captain spat. Forgiveness is for fools. The guilds built walls to keep chaos at bay. You tear them down, and everything burns. Kale, voice gentle but stubborn, countered. You already burn. Division breeds only monsters, like the maw beast. United, there's a chance to heal what's been broken. Sedge stepped forward, surprising all. I ran glass for guild tunnels. Saw whole families turned out, 'cause someone up high wanted more power. I'll take any shot at something better, even if it's just hope. The arch beckoned Taiven, the last piece in his hand. He looked at Corin. Fear flickered in his eyes, but she only nodded. You're not that cynical inventor anymore. This is your choice. Hands shaking, Taiven pressed the last fragment in. The arch blazed open, a vision of Morathryn whole, islands joining then swirling into a new, larger land in the clouds. For a moment he saw every guild crest fade, replaced by the old sigil of unity Ghent had taught him as a boy. But the isle began to quake uncontrollably. The ground split, magic too wild for their small group to tame alone. Marad shouted, Back to the Sparrow! We're out of time! Corin resisted. If we run, the change dies here. We can't hold it on our own. Taiven snapped, but something made him hesitate. He turned to the captain, voice raw. Help us, please. Put down your banners, just for now. The captain stared him down. Prove I can trust you. Prove this won't destroy the world. Taiven pulled the old gear from his satchel, the very heart of the mural. Together we control this. If you want to kill me after, fine. But right now, Morathryn needs all of us. A long, tense heartbeat. Then the captain nodded slightly, stepping forward beside the crew. Staff and hands joined, magic weaving between them, stabilizing the isle's wild tremors. Together they poured their hopes, regrets, and strength into the magic. The archway's vision flared into reality. A bridge of light shot out, linking the shattered isles. Gaps healed, islands drifted closer. The sky shook, change unleashed, but the crew held together, sweat and tears mingling on their faces. But nothing ever came free. Kale faltered as old wounds reopened. Sedge nearly dropped the link, and Marad's arm sparked dangerously. The captain, trembling, whispered, This magic will take its price. As the bridge of unity spread through the clouds, the greatest test loomed. A cost the crew hadn't imagined, and a choice that could remake Morathryn's fate forever. The crew gritted their teeth as the magic's toll grew brutal, each member fighting to keep the bridge of light strong. The isles, lured by unity, trembled ever closer. Too close. Clouds whirled, winds screamed. Light shivered along cracked hulls and battered faces. Taiven clung to the heartgear, its humming heat burning into his palm. Across the archway, ancient runes flickered with warnings Ghent never ever dared mention. If we push too far, Taiven rasped, the isles might collapse into each other. Too much power at once. The Crescent captain locked eyes with him, sweat streaming down her face. Then we stagger the joining. Hold 2 isles first, slowly. Let the magic settle. Marad nodded, voice ragged. We'll need everyone. No heroes, no martyrs. We all pull or we all fall. They circled together, hands and magic threaded tight. Sedge's voice quavered. Come on, Taiven. If you ever believed in anything, believe in us. For the first time, Taiven found he did. He shifted the heartgear just so, channeling their power through an ancient synchronization sequence Ghent had scribbled in the map's margin, a leap of faith born of invention and trust. Energy whirled dangerously as 2 isles bumped, hung on the edge of reunification. The bridge wobbled, then stabilized, a pulse echoing through the very roots of Morathryn. But the strain was titanic. Kale dropped to a knee, scaled hand beginning to crystallize. Corin grabbed his shoulder, refusing to let him fade. Marad's prosthetic sparked and crackled, threatening to seize up for good. Even the captain's staff cracked. Glyphs bleeding magic. Almost there! Taiven choked, pouring every ounce of belief, pain, and hope into the gear. He saw his old mentor's face, Ghent, patient and stubborn. The isles, once lost in fog, began to glow as one. But a final surge of energy exploded from the archway, knocking the crew flat. The isles held, just barely, tethered by the faintest bridge of magic. The cost was plain. Exhaustion hung over them. Kale's arm frozen and glimmering with living crystal, Marad's prosthetic ruined, the captain's staff shattered. Yet Morathryn had changed. Now a single glimmering land floated among the clouds, broad and solid beneath the sun. Guild ships circled, their banners lowered, crows perched silent, uncertain. For the first time in generations, Hope and fear mingled freely. Corin was first to her feet, helping Taiven up. "You did it," she whispered. "We did. But now comes the real test. Can Morathryn stay whole, without more blood, more sacrifice? Or will old rivalries tear it apart before we ever taste peace?" The Bridge of Unity shimmered. On its far end waited a gathering of guild leaders, every crest, every color, all watching. The fate of Morathryn would not only be decided by the strength to reunite it, but by the words their crew now chose, and the willingness of a once divided world to listen. For the first time, Taiven saw every Sky Guild assembled together, not as rivals, but as wary survivors stepping onto a single, newly formed land. The Bridge of Unity still pulsed with frail magic beneath their feet. Taiven, battered and unsure, approached the guild leaders. Corin, Marad, Kale, Sedge, and the Crescent Captain stood beside him, each bearing scars from the ordeal. A hush fell. The leaders studied them, stern faces, banners bundled in uneasy truce. Sedge limped, but set his jaw. Kale's crystallized hand glimmered in the rising dawn. Marad cradled her wrecked arm, undaunted. Corin's hands, scraped but steady, clutched the map of the isles that had brought so much chaos and promise. High Guildmaster Rhea, robed in storm gray, spoke first. "You've done what legends claimed was impossible. But unity bought in blood is fragile. Tell us, how do we trust each other now?" Taiven's throat was dry, but he stepped forward. "We had every reason to fail. We argued, nearly lost each other 100 times. But the Isles test you for a reason. Alone, you die. Together, you heal. We're not asking for peace because it's easy. We're asking because we made it here by choosing it, every moment, even when we nearly broke." The Crescent Captain, her staff now shards in her fist, met the other leader's eyes. "I opposed them. I thought guilds protected Morathryn. But fear shapes monsters. I saw hope in these strangers' hands. It's our turn to put hands forward, not fists." Murmurs passed through the crowd. Marad raised her ruined prosthetic high. "We could walk away and leave the Isles to history. Or we could learn from the old world and shape something new. Not guilds ruling from spires, but councils sworn to protect every voice, even the forgotten." The sky was quiet, crows regarding the gathering with bright, nervous eyes. It was Corin who held up the map, edges still scorched. "Ghent believed in invention, not conquest. We risked everything to prove Morathryn can be more than its scars. Let the new Isles be a place where forgiveness serves as the first brick, not the last." Guildmaster Rhea drew a slow breath. "You will meet resistance. Not all wounds close so swiftly." Kale said, voice trembling but proud, "We're not afraid of pain if it means the world is worth it." For a long moment, no one moved. But slowly, the guild banners were lowered. First one, then another, until color and sigil mixed and overlapped, indistinguishable. With a cautious hope, the guilds and the outcast crew together crossed the shimmering bridge. Decisions and arguments would follow. Rivalries would not turn to trust overnight. But Morathryn's new land, trembling and alive in the sunlight, was carried forward by a generation brave enough to begin. Taiven watched the crew, his friends, stand among once rival guilds. He felt exhaustion, yes, but something richer too. As the Isles shifted beneath them, no longer scattered but not yet at rest, Taiven turned to Corin and whispered, "Let's make sure what we started never breaks again." And under the open sky, Morathryn's new story began, not with conquest but with courage and the smallest spark of unity, lasting longer than any bridge of magic ever could.